Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin here in just a couple of moments, but I would just say that if you didn't get a chance to fill out one of the comment or question cards, they are located on the table near where you came in. So feel free to do that. We'll start in just a couple of moments. Once you've filled that out, you can simply put it in the cardboard box that is there, and we'll do our best to address as many of those as we possibly can today. Well, it is 11 o'clock and it's good to welcome you to our community forum today. I think it's incredibly rewarding to see so many people who are here engaged and wanting to learn about the issues in Richland County. So let me welcome you with the hope that you leave here today better prepared to help share the news that you hear with the community and being better prepared to be an advocate for change and good things in Richland County. I want to introduce our panel members in just a moment. But I'd like to say, I think that this is a day when we really make communication a priority. And one of my favorite sayings is, the problem with communication is the illusion it's happened. And so today I think we want to erase that illusion, that we truly do communicate. So we may not learn everything here today, but we find the basics and begin to be able to understand and build an opportunity to be able then to cooperate and collaborate and ultimately be able to challenge ourselves to conquer the circumstances that we face. So with that, we're going to begin this morning with some opening remarks from three of our speakers, and then we'll be looking at questions. We'll be seeing a PowerPoint presentation to help us understand better the issues of the Richland School District referendum. First of all, and I'm going to begin right here on my right, is Mike Wendell. Mike is the Corporation Counsel for Richland County. He is also the City Attorney. Jason Glassbrenner is sitting next to Mike. Jason from Economic Development. Tracy Gobin is next. Tracy is the Director of Simons Recreation Complex. Next to Tracy is our Mayor, Todd Coppernoll. Next to Todd is Steve Board. Steve is the Administrator in the Richland School District. Seated next to Steve is Aaron Umbihan. Aaron is the President of the Board of Education for the Richland School District. And far into the table is Al Lenz. Al today is here representing the Simons Recreation Complex Foundation, of which he is a board member. So to begin and kind of set an overview with how this collaboration group, this opportunity to come together started, we're going to begin with Mayor Coppernoll. Mayor Todd?
Thanks, Ron. Good morning, everyone. First of all, before I begin with remarks on why we're here and how we got here, I'm thrilled with the turnout. We didn't know. This is the first time we've done one of these. Hopefully there will be many to come. We'd like to make it a regular event in town, and it's the first time, so we didn't know how many folks we'd get, and this is excellent turnout. Second thing I want to do is thank Ron Fruit for serving as our moderator today. Thank you, Ron. Still smooth on the mic. Okay, so what happened that led to this? In December, a year ago, as you remember, the county was going through all sorts of review and revision of their budget, and talking about what would they have to do or might have to do to balance their budget. And one thing that came up, of course, was the Simons Recreation Complex, which has been, in addition to funding through memberships and things like that, has had funding from both the city and the county since it was built in 1987. And Marty Brewer, the county board chair, had publicly stated they weren't sure at the county if they'd be able to continue to fund that going forward. So what I did, I just called an impromptu meeting. Marty attended, and Steve Board and Aaron Umbihan with myself, just in the conference room at City Hall, just to begin a simple dialogue. What are you working on? What are we working on? The original conversation was it would be a terrible shame to lose Simons and lose our indoor pool, which is so unique in a community our size. So the original conversation centered on that. But what came out of that, as an example of what might be possible, the conversation began that night and continued forward between the county and the schools, which led to the school district now owning East Hall, which of course had been part of our campus And the school district now is using that as a charter school, which is helping them grow their enrollment, which brings significant increases in state aid, which helps all of our taxpayers. And that's the first thing that sort of just came out of the first conversation. So I said, let's keep doing this. Who's to say what we can come up with next? And we've been meeting consistently to talk about what the city's doing, what the school's doing, what the county's doing, just kind of an open conversation, reminding ourselves we all represent the same taxpayers. Let's be on the same page as often as possible. And the best news is everyone's been willing, everyone's been open. There hasn't been any breakdown in communication or any this is mine, that's yours. It's been how can we do this together? And one of the things that has stayed in the center of the conversation, which I'm sure we'll be discussing today, is Simons, but it's not the only thing. So I want to thank everyone up here for being open-minded and willing to participate in doing this. And again, thank all of you for attending.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Let's move the microphone down now to Mike Wendell, and we'll allow Mike to be able to set the stage and be able to represent the county perspective and otherwise. Mike?
Good morning, everybody. Mike Wendell again, Corporation Counsel, Civil Attorney for the county. Here today to kind of set expectations. For those of you who are not aware that at my request previously, the county board actually appointed me the negotiator with the UW system as regards to the campus. So if you've ever spoken with an official and they say, I don't know what's going on, it's because I didn't tell them. But what that means is I am that centralized point of communication somewhat deliberately because those negotiations are sensitive, they remain ongoing. And as such, I may not be able to present as much information as you may like to hear at this time, but rest assured that I've been charged by the county board to represent the community's best interest. I am doing my very best in pursuing that goal, and I look forward to serving you all and hopefully getting us in the best position possible for whatever use of the campus may come. I'm also here just on behalf of the county, so I can maybe answer some more general county questions and speak to any developments that you may have an interest in, or kick it to somebody who may know better.
That's good. Thank you, Mike. Let's pass the microphone down, if we can, now to Steve Board. Steve is the administrator of the Richland School District. And again, as we begin our opening statements and complete that, and Steve has finished his presentation, that's when we'll begin to field and answer questions from all of you. Steve. While Steve is preparing, if you want to go back and add a question, you certainly can. Maybe it'll be something that will be answered during the course of our presentations. But I'd remind you as well that we will repeat this forum, although maybe some of the content will be different, but the basic design will be the same tonight beginning at 6 o'clock. So pass the word, you're welcome to come back.
All right, thank you and great morning to each and every one of you. My name is Steve Board. I'm the District Administrator at the Richland School District. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank the folks who put this together. Al and Dean, Joel, Mayor Coppernall, Jason, Ashley, Candace, Murray Brewer, Aaron Ambihan. I'm sure I'm missing some people, but I really am excited about being a part of this panel. Okay, and as we move forward here, here's what I'd like to address this morning here. I'd like to just talk just a little bit about aligning our efforts together and collectively, and then I want to spend the majority of the time talking about the Richland School District referendum. Why do we need to go to referendum? How did we get to where we're at? What is the tax impact, and what are we going to do with the money? I want to talk a little bit about what is Simons and the school district, where are they at with that process, and then to answer some of the common questions that I've already gotten and already heard numerous times from community members, try to get some of those right out of the way right away. So with that, aligning our efforts. I've been a member of this community now for a better part of 35 years. My kids have grown up here. They're members of the community. They're members of our school district. One has graduated from high school. My wife works in the community. I've been part of this community in a business aspect. I've coached. I've been part of the school district for close to 30 years as a teacher, now as an administrator. One of the things that I've seen, and this is my personal opinion, but one of the things that I've seen in this community over the last 30 plus years is that we have some really, really good people in our community. We have a lot of great, generous people that are doing a lot of really, really good things. But here's the other thing that I've seen. We are like this in our community. We have a lot of really, really good people all trying to do a really good, positive thing. And each and every one of those arrows represents a person or a small group or an organization with a really good initiative in our community. But the problem is they're always pointing in different directions, and it doesn't seem like we've ever been able to get things aligned. And that's what's been exciting about working with this panel and this group of people, is that for the first time, it seems like we're solution-based and we're future-focused. And we're not pointing fingers and we're not trying to dwell on the past or figure out where the blame is going to be placed, but instead, this group of people has truly focused on what is best for our community moving forward, trying to find solutions to problems that we have. And when we can do this, and our community can start to get all of our initiatives pointing in the same direction, this is where we will make positive change in our community. When we can do this, this is what will bring families to our community. This is what will increase the number of youth that we have in our community. This will increase the local business owners. This will increase every organization that we have in our community and help grow and prosper. We are so close to just being we are on the edge and on the cusp of just having some great things in the school district, in our local community, in our county. But we have to start working together and we have to start looking towards the future. So this is what I think that is most important about this forum and this panel and this opportunity here. And lastly, I want to thank all of you in the room here, because last week I went down to the radio station with Dean and Al, and we spoke on the radio, and at the very end, Phil Nee said, Steve, what are you hoping to get out of this forum? And I said, we want to inform people. We need people to show up so that we can inform them, because in the absence of truth, people will fill in the blanks with their own information, and we don't want that. We want them to get factual information from the folks that can answer it. So having all these representatives from the different organizations within our community is extremely important, extremely vital, and we want you to leave here to make sure that your questions are answered. We may not always agree on everything in the end. We may not even agree on what the direction that we want to point in, but we have to start aligning our vision and our mission so that we can start moving our community and our district and our county forward. With that, let me move over to the referendum. What does the referendum look like? First of all, why are we looking at a referendum? School district revenue is based off of the number of school-age children, ages 4 to 18, that reside in the school district, okay? Students who are living in our school district. The more students that reside in our community, the more revenue a school district is allowed to have, okay? The fewer students, when we have less students in our community, then the less revenue that we get. This is a enrollment trend on school-age children, age 4 to 18, that live in our district boundaries. You can see that we peaked in about 2016-17 as far as the last 10 years, and it's been a steady decline ever since, down about 200 students over the last 7 years. A decline of students in our residence means a decline in revenue. How does this look in terms of how they're spread out over ages? This is a bar graph of our age groups, 4K on the far left, all the way up to our senior class on the far right, and each grade in between is represented. You can see that those 4 largest classes are all at the right-hand side. They are in our 9th grade, our 10th grade, our 11th grade, and our 12th grade. They all have over 100 students in our residence. Okay, as those students depart our school district, they're being replaced with smaller class sizes, less kids in our community of those ages, 70, 80 kids in a class. That's a significant difference. This means that we're going to, again, have a declining, not enrollment, although it will have a direct impact on our enrollment, but the actual number of kids that are living in our community and in our school district. So again, we've lost over several hundred students, school-age children in our community over the last few years. What does it look like moving forward? If we condense this data and look at some projections, we hired some crazy smart people from the University of Wisconsin Applied Population Lab to do a study on our demographics of Richland County and the Richland School District so that they could help us determine what do the projections look like moving forward for school-age children ages 4 to 18. They ran 4 different models, okay, through their statistical analysis. Each of those 4 models is represented by one of these 4 lines. You can see that regardless of which of the models you look at, they are all trending in the same direction, downward. We have fewer and fewer students living in our Richland School District. And this is a statewide phenomenon. It's not just Richland County, but it certainly is affecting Richland County. Over the course of the next 5 or 6 years, we're projected to have another 100 to 160 less school-age children living in the Richland School District than they do right now. Okay, and this is a problem. This is something that we've got to try to address and have an answer for. When we lose 100 to 160 residents at $11,563 a student, this is somewhere between 1.1 and 1.8 million that we'll be losing a year, simply because we don't have the number of those children living in our district. Okay, so some of you might be saying, well, hey, I heard at the state level last summer, they passed a biannual budget. They gave additional money to schools. They gave $325 per student that you got. $1,200, that's $400,000 that you should have gotten in additional revenue. That was politicians' math, okay? What happened was, the first thing that they did was they removed what's called a hold harmless exemption, which was the equivalent to $253 a student. They took $253 away and then gave us the $325 a student. This was a net result of just around $72 a student approximately. Now, while the extra $80,000 to $90,000 was welcomed revenue, it was nowhere near what we were expecting and nowhere near what was the perceived amount that we would be getting, because they took away, again, that hold harmless exemption off the revenue. And so we didn't actually get all of that extra money that the state said. And again, this is true for every district in the state. Not every district, but the majority of districts in rural Wisconsin. And then you might be asking that, well, why is this unique to Richland School District? Why are we in this situation? If these things are true, if there's declining population and there's declining enrollment and the state didn't give enough revenue, then shouldn't this be affecting more districts in the state of Wisconsin? The answer is yes, it has. In the last 4 years, every single one of these, this is not a county map, this is a school district map. Every single one of these colored school districts has gone to referendum from 2020 to 2023. Okay, either in a capital referendum, an operational referendum, or the gray is both. Okay, that's in the last 4 years. What about right now? All right, there's referendums in February, there's a possible referendum in April. These in green, these are the school districts that are going to referendum this year in the state of Wisconsin. So when you look at all of the school districts throughout the state of Wisconsin that have had to or will be going to referendum in the last 4 years, or this February or this April, and it's a significant number of school districts in the state of Wisconsin. This is how school districts are funded, and unfortunately, one of their only mechanisms is to use a referendum to do that. This does not include anybody that would be going in August or November. General elections in November tend to be one of the most heavily referendum for school districts times to go in a school year. That's not included in here, so I anticipate if you were to look at this come closer to November, it would be even filled in even more. All right, so how did we figure out what we were going to base this referendum on, what the questions were going to be for the Richland School District? We hired a company called the Morris Leatherman Company out of the Twin Cities. They've had 30 years of experience in surveying communities and gathering that data and interpreting that data. They used the old-fashioned phone call method. And they called 400 random residents in the Richland School District, making sure that they hit every demographic group. Maybe some of you in this room received a phone call from the Morris Leatherman group in December. If not, rest assured, they fulfilled their obligation. They've made phone calls with 400 people. The average interview time was 7 minutes. They talked and communicated with these folks, and they had every demographic group represented, from those that are fresh out of high school to those that are on fixed income and everything in between. That had school-age children, those that didn't have children, etc. And what we did was we made sure that we listened to those results and we formulated the referendum questions specifically off of what the Morris Leatherman group said we should be doing and what we should be prioritizing. So, what does this entail? Okay. We are allowed to ask 2 referendum questions in any given calendar year. We are using both of those questions, opportunities, in April, which means that regardless of what happens in April, we would not be able to ask any other referendum questions for the rest of 2024. All right? If one of them were to fail or we were to look at having to do something differently, that would have to wait until at least 2025. So what does this look like? Question 1 is a non-recurring revenue increase. Non-recurring means that this is not a lifelong bill on your property tax bills. This is not something that will last forever. The 2016 referendum for technology, that is one that will be on the the tax roll forever. The 2020 referendum, that is one that will be on your tax roll forever. This is a 4-year ask to the community. It's going to be $2.3 million in the 24-25 school year, increased by $100,000 each year after that, and culminating with 2.6 at the end of the 27-28 school year. At that point, this falls off the books, okay? And we would have to go back to the public to figure out what the next ask is going to be. Why is this important? Okay, for one, all right, this gives the Richland School District 4 years to show you, show the community, show the public that you can trust us and that we're going to do what we said we were going to do with the money. All right? In the past, it's been, we wrote this blank check, you guys are going to have this money, you may not even say what you're going to do. Okay? You may not do what you said you were going to do. This is going to hold us accountable. It's going to make sure that we can earn the trust, earn that trust from the community, not just ask for it, but earn it over the course of the next 4 years. And if we can't do that, then you shouldn't pass a referendum in 2028. Okay? You should say you didn't do it. But if we can do that, then we would be coming back and we would be talking about what does this look like now. The second thing is, remember that enrollment chart that I showed you? Our biggest 4 classes, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, and 12th grade, in 4 years, those biggest classes will now have graduated Richland School District. We will be now in a situation where we have a little bit more stable enrollment and we will be able to truly analyze where are we at now and where do we want to be moving forward. What will we actually use this for? Okay, one, it's got to keep up with this lost revenue. All right, we're losing revenue due to declining students that live in our district. Okay, we've got to be able to keep up with that. 2, we've got to be able to keep up with increased expenses. Everyone in this room knows that over the last few years, expenses have increased dramatically. All right, some of you may have gotten a wage increase in your jobs, and you probably are thinking, yes, inflation was this, and I got a little bit of a wage increase, but didn't keep up with the expenses that we have. Some of you may be on fixed income. You know that raising expenses on a fixed income is detrimental to your pocketbooks. The school district is being asked to have increased expenses with less revenue. All right, so we have to be able to have the ability to keep up with the lost revenue, and we have to have the ability to keep up with increased expenses. We need to start offering our students in our school district better opportunities. We're losing students to other school districts, and we need to start investing money into updated curriculum, enriched opportunities, whether that be in the form of field trips or other opportunities outside the walls, and that does cost money. Transportation costs money, and so by increasing our opportunities, increasing the programming that we offer our students, I feel like we're going to have a better school district. And then finally, we need to be able to keep up with employee wages. We are losing staff members. We are losing teachers to neighboring school districts that are able to pay more than the Richland School District is. This is sad to me when we have a 30-year teacher in our district, for the last 4 or 5 years of their teaching career, they go to a neighboring district. We're losing a good quality teacher to neighboring districts. We have to be able to offer competitive wages and make the Richland School District more attractive for our students, which makes our youth more informed, which makes our community better, which increases the opportunities for everyone. This is from the Federal Reserve economic data, FRED. This is average wages in the state of Wisconsin over the last several years. The line there, the gray line there, is representing 2020. You can see a steady increase up until 2020, and then a much steeper increase since 2020. Wages around the area have increased, okay? That is a good for the people in our area, but we have to be able to keep up with it, or we're going to continue to lose people to surrounding districts, to surrounding areas. Some people are driving to Madison, for crying out loud. Let's keep them in our community working for our employers. Let's increase some of our wages. All right, so what is this going to cost us? Because that's one of the things. Like, yeah, it all sounds good, or hopefully it sounds good, but what is it going to cost us? What is it going to mean for me as a taxpayer that owns property value in the Richland School District? This referendum question will be asking to increase the revenue limit, okay, starting at 2.3 in 24-25, increasing to 2.6 in 27-28. This will come at a $0 tax increase, okay? This is something that we have been able to do, and you might say, how can we do it? Back in 2020, the school district used a strategy called defeasance, where we started to prepay some debt, okay? Instead of making interest-only payments on a loan that we had, we started prepaying debt. And by using that strategy, this will allow us to pass this referendum without any tax rate increase to the public, all right? So 0 tax rate increase for the public on question 1. What's the second part of the question? Second part of the question consists of property, buildings, all right? When school districts need to make capital improvements, need to make improvements to their buildings and their property, instead of taking out a loan, they purchase bonds, okay? Bonds are typically financed for 20 years, and the school district will buy back those, will pay off that loan or those bonds with interest over the next 20 years, okay? Very similar to a house mortgage, okay, or a car loan. We asked the Morris Leatherman Group to find out what the community's priorities are. In the end, this is the public school system. It's the public school system. We need to make sure that we are representing the values and the vision of our stakeholders. And so we asked the Morris Leatherman Group, what is the priorities of the district? What would they support? Okay, and everything in green is the percentage of people that were supportive of these things. In red is opposition, and in yellow is unsure. There's a small sliver there that were unsure. And these are the top priorities that they were able to support, with the top being safety and security, making sure that we have safe buildings, secure buildings, that we have our staff and our students safe when they enter the public school system and getting to the public school system. Number 2 is ADA compliance. We have several places that are not up to code when it comes to ADA, handicap accessibility, etc. Technical education upgrades gain support. That's number 3. We know that we place, many of our students are ready for the workforce. Not all of them are attending a college afterwards, but we want them ready for the workforce. The systems that we have in place in our technical education and our agriculture classrooms are outdated, and they're not up to par with what our employers around the area need our students to be educated and familiar with when they come out of school. Air conditioning. Air conditioning was a contentious topic back in 2016. They were hoping that it would be part of the scope of that project. Bids came in more than what they anticipated, and at a public board meeting, they decided to take that out of the scope. And back in 2016, we need to get air conditioning in the primary school and the intermediate school so our students and our staff can learn in all climates and in all conditions and be comfortable. Energy efficiency. We've got a lot of outdated windows. We've got a lot of outdated doors, things that are not energy efficient. We don't have a lot of, some of our lighting needs to be upgraded with LEDs, etc. We've got roofing and deferred maintenance, roofing, parking lots, hard surface areas. This was supported by the public, as well as auditorium upgrades. In addition, the Morris Leatherman Company asked, would the community support things like artificial turf on our sports fields? 55% said they would support that. Would the community support a field house or a fitness center as part of the Richland School District. 55% of the people supported that. So these are the 9 things that the community said they would support conceptually. We like the idea of it, all right? Here's the problem. The problem is, even though they wanted to support these things, the financial impact did not allow them to support all of it, all right? They were not able to spend all of the money that would be required to do a $45 million project and encompass all of these things, perhaps even closer to $50 million. It wasn't something that they could handle from a tax standpoint. Morris Leatherman told us, you have to keep your monthly impact to an average homeowner to $15 a month or less. Okay, putting all of this on a referendum ballot would probably have raised that to $20, $21 a month. And that was well beyond what the local people in our community could financially support, even if they liked the idea of it conceptually. All right, so I don't know if you can see these pictures from here, but we do have old bathrooms. We have old restrooms. One of the things that we've got to get fixed is the ability for people of all abilities to be able to use these restrooms in a safe manner. Many of them are not ADA compliant. It's difficult for someone in a wheelchair to navigate around. We've got problematic bus drop-off, parent drop-off, and pickup points at the primary school and the intermediate school. If you've been in either of those 2 areas at 10 to 8 in the morning or at 3:10 in the afternoon, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, I would encourage you to go see it, okay? Because it truly is a little bit of a chaos, and it can certainly be improved, and that would certainly help from a safety standpoint. I mentioned we need some technical education upgrades. When we built our quote-unquote new high school in 1996, which is now 28 years old, okay, just let that sink in for a second. Our new high school is pushing 30 years old. Some of the original technical education equipment from the old high school was brought along with it. Okay, this is outdated equipment, outdated learning for our students, and we've got to try to get that upgraded. We've got repairs and energy efficiency that I mentioned. The vents there on the right, this is from that quote-unquote new high school. Rusted vents, things are showing its wear and tear. We've got to upgrade some of this stuff to be more energy efficient. We've got windows and doors and foundational cracking that needs to be fixed in order to keep these 3 buildings in tip-top shape for our students from a safety and security standpoint, as well as energy efficiency standpoint. Our auditorium, we have a beautiful auditorium, and if you've been in that auditorium, you're thinking, why would you need to make any upgrades to that? It looks fantastic. It does look fantastic. The problem is the sound and the lighting are also 28 years old. Okay, that was good equipment at the time. It is no longer good equipment. We have a lot of community groups that use our auditorium. They bring in their own sound and lighting because it's easier for them to haul it all in than it is for them to try to use the outdated equipment that we have in our auditorium. The upgrades to the auditorium would primarily be around sound and lighting. So of those 9 things, what did they actually say that we could, it should include? The top 7. We should include in a $27,160,000 referendum, okay? And $27 million seems like a crazy amount of money, all right? That number's only gonna get higher if it gets pushed off. If we would have done it a few years ago, it would have been cheaper. We all know about inflation. But it addresses safety and security. It addresses ADA and accessibility. It accesses, technical education upgrades. It puts the air conditioning at the primary school and the intermediate school. It makes our buildings more energy efficient. And deferred maintenance, parking lots, roofing, things like that, and auditorium upgrades are included in that. Those 7 things are specifically what it will be. What does that look like from a tax impact? Okay, $27,160,000. That will have a tax increase of $14.76 a month to the average homeowner in the Richland School District. Average home, average property value in the Richland School District is $161,000 in 2023. That would mean an impact of $14.76 per month to those folks. That will be a tax rate increase of $1.10 per thousand. Okay, right now our mill rate is $9.12. If question 2 were to pass, that would put that at $10.22. Average impact would be somewhere between $110 and $220 a year for a $100,000 to $200,000 home. All right, so how does this play into Simons and the Richland School District, and one of the reasons that we're here today? You saw that there was support. 55% of the people supported the Richland School District building a fitness center and a gymnasium. But the reality is the question, it continues to arise, why would we spend the money and ask the taxpayers to spend the money to build a new gym and a fitness center when there is one less than 400 yards away from our high school? It's right there, right? The gymnasium is not being used. Simons is being used, but could that be something that the school district could consider? Here's the thing. You may have heard the school district is taking over Simons, all right? That is not true. That is not part of this referendum. No part of this referendum has anything to do with Simons. What we want to do in the future, and what I'm hoping that the fine folks that were on this panel continue to do in the future, is continue to have these discussions, continue to work together, continue to collaborate to help with the city, the school, and the city and the county to find a viable option to make Simons and that gymnasium part of our community long term. If the school district can be a part of that solution, great. If there are other alternatives out there, that's fine as well. Okay? My goal as representing the school district and personally is to make sure that those things stay in our community long term and available for the people in our community. What is the school district hoping for? The school district really needs a gym. All right? When we moved our 7th and 8th graders up to the high school, it is problematic and expensive to transport them down to the intermediate school. We now have an after-school program, a daycare program happening at the primary school and the intermediate school. That makes that gym being used, and that's wonderful and fantastic. But the facility that we have at the high school can be crunched at times. And so if there's a way that the school district could use the gym at Simons, whether it's in some sort of a collaborative effort with the county, great. If not, then we're going to continue to be pinched when it comes to programming opportunities and extracurricular opportunities as well. Prior to this year, the school district was able to use that. We had an MOU with the county and the UW to be able to use that gym, and so since the merger of the 3 buildings, we've been doing that. That's no longer an option, at least at this particular moment in time. We're hoping that it is in the future. But again, in the end, we want the school district to be part of a solution if we're needed, okay, to make sure that the Simons and that gymnasium are available to our community and our public and our school long term. All right, so here are some very common questions that I've gotten, and maybe this will start the discussion for some questions that you may have moving forward. Okay, I have heard, how will I know that the money that you're asking will be spent on the things that you're telling me that they're going to be spent on? You may have heard, back in 2016, you said we were going to put air conditioning in those buildings. It didn't happen. How am I going to make sure that they're going to be included in the referendum this year? The reality is that we have placed each of those 7 items specifically in the referendum question. This is not a general referendum question for quote-unquote district improvements. Each and every one of those priorities are specifically listed in the referendum question, which means that we are bound by law to fulfill that. If that referendum question passes, then we must make sure that we fulfill all of the things that we told the people we were going to do. And by itemizing them within the question, yes, it makes it a little more wordier, but it protects the stakeholders to know that when they vote yes, if they vote yes for that question, that the money is going to be spent on those specific things. Okay? Another question that I've heard, what happens if the questions fail? All right? Back in 2020, question failed, actually twice, in November of 2020 and then April of 2021, and then we heard feedback, and then we went ahead and we pushed kids into 3 buildings. All right? What's going to happen if it fails? We want to be very transparent with that. If question 1 fails, we are going to be forced to eliminate 6.5 full-time positions for the start of next school year. Now, let me tell you that we are already planning on reducing one of these, regardless of whether it passes or fails. We have 1 administrative position that will be retiring, and we are not looking at replacing that. Okay, we feel that we will be right-sized. So we're going to go down 1 administrative position regardless. Just for the record, we went down 1 last year as well. But the other 5.5 positions will be a direct result and a direct impact to students. Our class sizes will be bigger. We will not have enough supports if question 1 doesn't pass. Remember, this will be at no tax rate change with question 1. What happens if question 2 fails? Well, simply put, we're going to continue to have buildings that don't meet code. We're going to continue to have buildings that leak. We have roofing at the high school that needs to get fixed. The other two buildings are in pretty good shape from a roofing standpoint, but we will continue to have technical education spaces that are outdated, and all of the upgrades and repairs simply won't happen. And it's simply going to cost us more down the road. Think about what things cost 2 years ago, and then think about what they might cost 2 years from now. So that's why we're asking, or that's what will happen if question 2 doesn't fail. Question 2, again, is the $1.10 tax rate impact, or $14.76 a month to the average homeowner. Question, why isn't the school doing more to bring students back? This may not be referendum specific, but I'm sure it's on the minds of many people. It's a question I often get. The reality is we do have a problem where we do have a lot of students open enrolling to other school districts. We are making changes. We are making improvements. In the last year alone, we've brought 20 students back into our district. Okay? This may not seem like a large number when we're talking 200 plus leaving our school district, but it is a significant dent. And anybody who is familiar with basic economics know that you can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to sell more product today, and it just happens that day. It takes time. It takes building the trust. It takes marketing strategy. We're doing those things. We're starting to see the rewards of those, and we're bringing students back. We're bringing students that have left our district back. And so we're going to continue to find ways, and we're going to continue to listen to people on what we can do to continue to bring more and more students back. We want to make the Richland School District the district of envy, the place that people want to be, bring their students, and have a great educational experience. And then finally, I often get asked, why doesn't the district just budget for this stuff? You know you've got a roof that needs to be repaired. Why don't you just budget and plan for it? Because that's what we all have to do as homeowners in our community, right? We know we've got an air conditioner that's going to last us 3 or 4 years, more years. We've got to plan for that. Why doesn't the school district do that? The reality is it would force us to eliminate staff and other opportunities. You take just the Richland Center High School roof, okay? There's 220 square foot on that Richland Center High School roof. That's a $4 million roofing replacement project. If we were to say right now, it's brand new, and we're going to plan on a $4 million project for the next 20 years, that means for the next 20 years we have to make a $200,000 cut. That's the equivalent to 3 teachers. It's just not sustainable from an educational standpoint to be able to handle all of our maintenance through the budget. Because if we did, we would have to make sure that we eliminate programming and staffing in order to meet the needs. And that's why the graph I showed earlier showed so many school districts have to go to referendum, because that's the funding mechanism available for them for deferred maintenance and things like that. Those are the big questions that I wanted to make sure that I got answered. I know that there are probably many others. That's the gist of our presentation. That's the gist of what the Richland School District is looking to do. This will be on 2 questions on the April 2nd election. We're going to be holding numerous community forum and listening sessions at the primary school, the intermediate school, and Richland Center High School. Be listening for those dates. Those will be specific to the Richland School District, but we wanted to use this as an opportunity to help answer some of the questions in this capacity as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, I'm going to ask the panelists if they would return, please, that we might be able to address some questions and continue this morning. Steve, I'm going to address this first question to you that comes from our audience this morning. And that is this: in regards to how soon improvements might take place. The referendum passes in April. How soon are the wheels in motion? And in particular, the improvements that could happen with the Richland Center High School auditorium.
That's a great question. If the referendum were to pass in April, we would be working with the construction management firm and beginning bids as soon as we could in late spring, early summer. Some of the construction would probably have to be put off until 2025, but we're hoping that some of the things that require upgrades, perhaps the roofing at the Richland Center High School, that some of that could happen in the summer of 2024, and then some of those upgrades could happen during the course of the school year. But it will all depend on supplier chain, when we can get the bids in, and what their timeline looks like for improvements.
The next question, either for Mike or for Todd. Could there be a property tax reassessment in the plans?
The city will be undertaking a revaluation of the properties in the city within the next, as soon as we can. It was approved by the council last year. The reason it didn't happen, there aren't many providers who do that in this part of the state, and those that are there had a backlog because they couldn't go out during COVID. This is actually mandated by state law. It should have been done, honestly, by now. It just, we're trying to, and it's got to be done. That's by state law, so that will happen as soon as a provider is available to get out here.
Mike, is there anything you'd like to add to that? All right. Tracy, I'll ask you to address the next question first, and try to hold that microphone as close as you can to your mouth. In regards to Simons, one of our attenders today wonders about those in our community who face overweight or mobility issues, wondering what more Simons could do to address this issue in our community.
Yeah, so we have some options. I'll pass the mic down to Alan Lenz in just a moment, but things that everybody in the public can do if you have somebody who, you know, is a little overweight, needs some help, is buddy system. Has been found over the years that that's the best way to help people get into a fitness program. So if you have somebody that you know, bring them in, work out with them, you know, come to classes with them and encourage them. Everybody's a little bit different on what they like to do for working out. And you have to find something that you like and enjoy to do. So if it's just work and you don't enjoy it, then you won't come back every single time. So you can find something that you enjoy. Maybe it's water aerobics, maybe it's a land fitness class. It could be lifting weights, or it could be stressing out and hitting the racquetball around, playing racquetball to get that stress down. So there's different things that you can do. The swimming pool is a great place for folks to get in and feel that they, you know, when you get in the water, you feel like you weigh less, so you can move a little bit more. If you have aches and pains, that usually helps. A lot of folks that are overweight, they have those aches and pains, so the swimming pool is great. But Alan Lenz has been doing some research on some pieces of equipment in the exercise room that would be helpful for those with mobility issues, and he's looking at doing a grant on it. So I'm going to pass the microphone down to him, and he's going to talk about that equipment down there.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm out at Simons every morning about 5:30, you know, working out in the exercise room. My wife swims, and I've looked at how could Simons be more inclusive? How can we welcome more people in? And I've, you know, just spent a lot of time surfing the internet, and I found a piece of equipment that Simons doesn't currently have that would be useful for people who are in wheelchairs. You know, people who, you know, and you know, there's a few people coming to Simons right now. I'm guessing they probably had a stroke and other, you know, medical issues, but you know, I found a piece of equipment. I ran it by Tracy to see what she thought, and she thought it'd be a good addition to what's being offered out there. So I, you know, had a preliminary contract with a foundation that, you know, we could possibly write a grant for, and so I'm going to be doing that. The foundation does a matching grant, so the Simons Foundation would have to kick in about half the money for this piece of equipment, and the grantor would provide the other half of the money. It can be used by people who are mobile. You know, I wish I had a picture of it here, but I don't. But basically the seat is removable, so you can just roll a wheelchair right in there and sit down and exercise. And so we'd like Simons to be more welcoming and inclusive to everyone in the community. And I had a chat yesterday with someone from the hospital, and I think there's going to be more discussions happening with the hospital about how, you know, the hospital, when people are post-treatment in their rehabilitation, that maybe they can be encouraged to come to Simons and use the pool. The pool is handicap accessible. The people I talk to who exercise in the senior C programs, seem to enjoy it. There's a real spirit of community there, and so we just want to encourage that and get that out to more people.
Thank you, Al. Let's send the microphone back down to Tracy again for the next question. One in attendance today just simply shares that they believe the natatorium is one of the best assets in our community, and especially the pool, given the fact that it is heated and has to be taken care of. Wondering, is there a way to be able to have more accessible hours for the pool, Tracy, to be able to find ways that would give more flexibility for people to be able to use and take advantage of that asset?
Yes, the pool is a great place in the facility. It's one of the unique aspects of the facility. It's wonderful. Because of the size of our swimming pool, the state of Wisconsin requires that we have a lifeguard on duty at all times when folks are using the swimming pool. So with right now, really it's mostly high school students that we have as our lifeguards. As most of you are aware, there isn't the campus students on campus any longer. We used to have college students that would guard for us, but so now it's mainly high school, and they're in school during the middle of the day. So in the summertime, we do expand the pool hours. So in order to expand the hours during the school year, we'd need adults out there who would want to be lifeguards. So raise your hand if you're interested in being a lifeguard, and we'll get you signed up and get you going as a lifeguard, and then we could open the pool up more. But without the staffing for the lifeguards during the day is really our struggle, because we do rely very heavily on high school lifeguards. So that's kind of our contributing factor to the hours, is when we can have lifeguards on, and a majority of them are the high school students, which we're thankful for. So
Let's pass the microphone to Al. You wanted to add?
I'd like to add something.
Certainly.
I'd just like to add something to Tracy's comments. The state of Illinois allows adult-only swimming as part of their administrative rules, and I've contacted Senator Howard Markline and asked him to, do this for the state of Wisconsin. I think it would be beneficial for a lot of indoor pools in the area, and may also help the aquatic center. I presented that to the natatorium board, asked them to consider adopting a resolution to that effect, and send it on to Senator Markline. And to date, that hasn't happened yet. But I'm still going to encourage people to do that. If we could have adult-only swimming, and I would defer to Tracy on, the state of Illinois, it's anyone 16 and older. It may make more sense to make that 18 and older, but we need a state administrative rule to be changed. The information I got back from Senator Markline was that it'll take about 7 months to make that happen once the legislative bodies and the governor all buy off on the idea. So that's something that's, could help the availability of pool hours at Simons.
Tracy, do you want to add anything to that? Okay. The next question, Mike, if we can pass this over to Mike Wendell. In regards, a listener or an attender today, Mike, wonders about the UW soccer field with respect to what you said before about the sensitivity of talking about negotiations with the Board of Regents and so forth. But maybe you could spend just a moment defining property, or helping us better understand the do's and don'ts of what you face.
Sure. So I will start by saying that the county board has assembled a campus reconfiguration committee. So they have dedicated a committee of the board to examining options for use of the campus depending on the results of the negotiations with the UW system. So if you have ideas for how the campus could be used in the future, could be used in the present, certainly that is the body to which you would bring those ideas. One of the first steps was to contract to do a space needs assessment. So right now we've engaged with a firm that will be evaluating not just the campus, but all county-owned buildings, giving us a report of the condition of the various buildings, what use we may or may not be able to make of them, urgent versus potentially deferrable maintenance that can be done. Once we have an idea of the state of the buildings, then the next step in the campus reconfiguration committee is to develop the formal process by which ideas for the campus get submitted. So we don't want it to be kind of a free-for-all, We know that there are a lot of great ideas out there, and we want to give everybody a fair shot to present their idea and have it be fully considered, even against, maybe not comparable proposals. So to the soccer field, so if that were to be incorporated into Simons, or if there was construction that was considered on that, what would have to happen is we need to finish that space needs assessment, we need to develop the process, and then an idea for the use of the soccer field would need to be submitted to that campus reconfiguration committee. Now, it's possible that the idea that for the soccer field is an absolute no-brainer, we can do it the next day, and it gets passed through the committee there. Or it could be that a different proposal makes an alternative use of it that's deemed to be in the better interest of the community. I don't want to speculate too much on what that might look like at this point. To answer the underlying question, the soccer field is part of the MOA that exists right now, and so use thereof would be contingent on permission from the UW system.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Steve Board, if we can. Steve, you mentioned this morning, but you also said on the air in your radio interview on Friday that with the operating referendum, it gives you 4 years to say to this community, here's what you're doing, or here's what we're doing. We want you to believe in us. What benchmarks would you as an administrator and members of the Richland School District use to say, yes, we are achieving our goals with the community. Yes, we are being able to do what we said we would do, and therefore we deserve the support that we're seeking?
Sure. Each year, the school board sets priorities and goals that we have for that given school year. And that is really what is the basis behind their evaluation of me and what I would be holding our administrative team and our staff accountable to. For instance, this year, we identified 3 priorities, 6 goals, centering around making sure that every student has a quality adult that they feel comfortable talking to. We found from a survey that we had last year that not many of our students felt, or not as many as we would have liked, felt comfortable talking to an adult. And so this was our #1 priority, making sure that students feel comfortable talking to an adult in the school system about anything that they may have. And our baseline data in the fall, we are in the process of getting our mid-year data right now, and collectively at the end of the year as well. But we have a process in place, and we'll continue to evaluate that. And we'll be doing that for all of our goals. So the benchmarks that we have in place as far as what that will look like in 4 years, I don't know the answer to that. That will be what our school board will have to be gathering information on what the priorities of the community are and making that vision align. And then I will be held accountable to making that happen and making sure that those goals are definable and they're measurable and that we're moving towards progress. One of the things that I know that I want is we want to start bringing some of these students back into our community. Whether or not that's a goal that we have in year 2, year 3, year 4, that I'm not sure of. That will be up to our Board of Education.
Next question this morning, Steve. Why would a school district consider the installation of artificial turf on its athletic fields?
Many school districts, I shouldn't say many, there are several school districts that are moving in this direction. I do not know, I'm not an expert on whether or not it's a safer environment for a football player or a soccer player to be a part of, if it's more detrimental to their knees or a concussion. I do know that from a pure financial standpoint, that once fields are installed, that the maintenance and upkeep is significantly less. Turf doesn't grow. Turf is much more capable of handling water and droughts and those kinds of things. And so you can paint lines on a field once a year, and there's significantly less upkeep and maintenance that needs to happen on them. I think that's one of the bigger reasons why people are putting it in. It becomes maintenance free, at least for a long portion of time. Obviously, there's some upkeep that needs to happen. There are several school districts in our conference now that have it, and I think that was one of the things that we wanted to ask the community whether they support it.
Dean, are there any more questions in the box? Okay. What I'd like to do at this point, and we want to be respectful of your time, is panelists, is there something you would like to be able to say, having heard the conversations that we have had, or something you'd like to add? So why don't we start at the far end of the table. Al, is there something that you would like to summarize? And then as we have time, maybe we can take a couple more questions.
Just the only thing I would add to what's been discussed here so far is that the Simons Foundation has prepared a proposal already for the county to consider, when the window opens. And I watched the video from the most recent Campus Reconfiguration Committee meeting where the architectural firm was chosen, and I just hope and request that the Simons Foundation is considered to be a key constituent that the architectural firm consults with in regards to the future of the campus. And the Simons interest is specifically in the gym, and I think we've got a proposal that will be really good for the entire community.
Aaron, do you want to speak, or let Steve?
Sure, I can speak. Just want to thank everybody for their...
Just get that microphone.
Just want to thank everybody for coming today. To echo what Mr. Board, Mr. Coppenall had said as well, this is hopefully the first of many of these opportunities to come. The cross-collaboration and cross-functional conversations and work here has been very satisfying and gratifying as it has been unfolding. So thanks again.
Thank you, Aaron. Steve?
I hogged the mic for most of the morning, so I won't talk a lot, but I do just want to thank each and every one of you for coming and becoming informed, all right? I think it is so important to make sure that you get factual information, that you get the right information, and you've got an opportunity to have people up here that can try to answer those questions for you. So hopefully you are more informed now, and you're able to relay factual information to the folks that you speak with. And again, if we can get all of those arrows pointing in the same direction, we can move our community, our school, and our county forward.
Mayor Todd.
I'm going to ask for a comment in a second from Mr. Umbihan and Mr. Board. There's another success story, another collaborative effort that's already taken place between, in this case, the City of Richland Center and the Richland School District, and I probably should have mentioned in the opening remarks. And that is the community resource officer that's in the high school. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, there's a police officer in the high school at Richland Center now, and when Mr. Board gave his presentation today, the first thing on the list that the public said mattered to them or concerned them was safety and security in the schools. And that led to this. And I think that came from you, Mr. Board. I think what happened, at least the way it got to me, was through the city administrator after contact from the district. And what happened there is the school district and the city are jointly funding that. And what I would like to do is have Aaron and Steve comment on why that was needed and what it's providing in our school. I think it makes sense to talk about since safety and security was the top of the list, and we're up here telling everybody we're working together.
We know that we cannot ever be too safe in our school districts, and there are many communities that are starting to have community resource officers in their schools. This was this was not my brainstorm, this was a group effort from several people a lot smarter than I am that came together and said this would be something that's really valuable. And so we worked with Chief Jones and the city, and we were able to make it happen, and I appreciate that collaborative effort. Discipline in our schools, some of the unstructuring that we have in our schools was becoming a problem. We started to see an increase in drug use and weapons, and having a community resource officer in the building is something that we saw very quickly made a positive impact. In addition, there are many unfortunate youth in our community that the only experience that they have with law enforcement is a negative one. Law enforcement coming to their homes, interrupting their families. And so, again, by having a positive adult in the buildings for students to be able to talk to see on a regular basis and in a positive way, that just helps build more relationships. And if we can have our youth being more aware of rules, regulations, and respect in the school system, and then see a similar person in the community, we know that carries over. Statistically, it carries over and there's a positive impact. So I think having that community resource officer in our schools has been invaluable. Our school staff as well as our students have responded very well to it. It's been a very, very positive thing. We've seen discipline go down. We still have problems. We still have situations that arise, but we're able to handle them much quicker in much more expedited fashion than we did prior to having this in there. So it's been a very good thing. Aaron, do you have anything to add?
That was very well said. But in all seriousness, no, the CRO, tying back to Steve's earlier comments about goals and how we're hold accountable, right? And this goal that he had given as far as building relationships and knowing an adult. Also piggybacking on what Steven said as well, is with building relationships, is some of the feedback I've been given is there's a lot of students that have open and honest communications with this individual, and that builds a lot of trust. And yeah, that's really all I really have.
Tracy?
I just want to say thank you all to coming. I know some of you guys I've seen already once this morning, but it's good to see everybody here, and thank you all for coming. And I want to thank the City of Richland Center and the County of Richland for their support for 33 years in providing Simon's Recreation Complex as a service to the community. I think it's a wonderful thing that the city and the county has done to come together and provide this wonderful service of the swimming pool and fitness center to the community. So it wouldn't be possible without the City of Richland Center and Richland County. So thank you.
Thank you. Jason Glassbrenner, Economic Development. Jason?
Well, I almost escaped having to say anything. That's good. Now, I just want to say a little bit about collaboration. I do think that in Richland Center, and oftentimes you hear the county and the city don't get along, and that's not true. It's just simply not true. We have a lot of tremendous relationships that we work and we cultivate, the school included. I meet with the city administrator, Ashley Oliphant, and Steve Board, myself, and Candace Pesh, our county administrator, and we're constantly trying to work on things to exchange ideas, pool resources, and solve problems together. So I don't know if there was a culture in the past that was like, we're not talking to you and you're the good guy in the room or the bad guy in the room. But I can tell you from an administrative side and from an economic development side, it doesn't work, and that's not our trajectory moving forward. And so I'm just here to say that I think we've got a lot of good relationships between the city and the county and the school district right now. And I think we're going to see very positive things happen because of it.
Mike?
So I'm kind of in a weird position because what I want to say, the people in this room don't need to hear necessarily, but I'm going to say it in hopes that the message gets out there, which is, you've got great elected officials, you've got great personnel in places, but we still need to be engaged with the community. We need to know the people that we represent. We need to know the people that we're working for. And so your attendance at something like this is phenomenal. I thank you so much for being out here this morning. If there's someone at home or someone you're in contact with who maybe is quick to complain about things but has never seen the inside of City Hall or the county building, just remind them that nobody's doing this to get rich. Nobody's doing it for the fame. We're doing it because we live here, we love it here. We're trying to make this the best place possible. And to do that, we need to hear from the people who live here, not just, kind of when there's a problem, but just generally be aware of the things that are being talked about, the things that are being discussed. You never know when the next great idea is going to come out or where it's going to come from. And I'd hate to see that lost because someone feels like their voice isn't important or something like that. So just continue this engagement here and then spread the word, try and get some more people. Let's blow the 6 o'clock attendance out of the water.
The goal for today was about a 75-minute session, so we have just a few minutes remaining. Is there a question that you'd like to be able to offer that we can direct toward our panelists?
I'm wondering about the campus, and I'm hearing things that there's a committee working on it, but we don't know who those people are, if we do want to contact them. And why does Blackville or of a say in what we're doing with the campus when they don't want it.
Maybe I can rephrase that, or if you want to just kind of rephrase the question a bit, Mike.
Part of it is, why does Platteville have so much say over what the Richland campus does? I'll take that one first. That's part of the reconfiguration, the reincorporation of the 2-year campuses of the UW system into a neighboring 4-year campus. So basically, every 2-year campus was assigned to a 4-year campus. A lot of the administrative functions were transferred. I was not here for when that actually occurred, but going through this process, I've learned a lot about the consequences that our campus faced because of that. But from a legal perspective, that's why they have that authority over the way that we do things. So that's why the sign says UW Platteville Richland, because we are a satellite campus of the UW Platteville. I will say I am negotiating with the UW system. If you had been to one of the community listening sessions, there was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Brandt. He is the Vice President of University Relations. He would be one of the people that are in those discussions, as well as, well, they're lawyers. Now, as regards the Campus Reconfiguration Committee, I don't know how tech savvy everybody is. It is a normal meeting of a county board committee. I can't remember off the top of my head when the next meeting is going to be. I know the committee is chaired by David Turk. Marty Brewer is on it. I'm not going to try and remember all the names off the top of my head. However, they are your county board representatives. So you may not know that they're on the committee, but you do know the people who are on the committee. And they are, like I said, as Al spoke to earlier in their most recent meeting, they heard presentations from a variety of architectural firms, again, to determine who would be doing that space needs assessment for us. And that's where the process is currently, because we don't want to evaluate ideas or make any promises for buildings that we're not confident we could, apply those ideas to.
I did see there was a hand down here. Yes, go ahead.
I wonder if you could tell us, how does the school voucher program impact the finances of our district currently, and then how would it, what effect would it have going into, say, the next 4 years if this referendum were to pass?
Could you repeat the second part?
How does the voucher program impact our finances here now and then going into the future with the referendum, for example?
Sure, yeah.
Could you repeat the question a little bit, Steve, and
Yeah,
rephrase
the
it?
question is, how does the school voucher program work, and how does it affect the school finances, and what does it look like moving into the future? The most simplistic answer to a very complex school finance formula is that the school district receives money for every child age 14 to 18 that reside in the school district. And that was the charts that I showed you earlier. That's what we receive revenue for. When a student attends a private school and there is a voucher program, or are open enrolled to another school, then that money gets redispersed to those entities through either a voucher program or through the open enrollment process. And so there's a reconciliation that happens at the end of the year in June, where the state will help, here's the money that went to private schools, here's what you received in for students that came to your district from out of surrounding districts, and then here's what you owe to other districts that go. And so the DPI will help, Department of Public Instruction helps consolidate all of that. But in the end, we get the money and then we would pay it out.
But how much money?
It's, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head. We get $11,563 for income for our students. If a student is non-special education, I believe that the number that the private schools get is $8,500, and if they're special education student, I believe it's $11,500. So basically a wash for a special education student.
And the second part of that was then, how would the referendum affect that aspect, Steve? Would it?
it would not affect it in any capacity. Obviously, if we can, and I support all public education, all education in general, regardless of where students are at. But as I mentioned, I want the Richland School District to be the district of envy. I want this to be where students come. So with that, obviously, the more students we can keep in-house and keep them from going to other school districts, that would be not more revenue, but it would be less expense that are paid out.
One final question.
Do you find out why they're moving in or out of the district?
Yes, that's also a very common question that we get, and we are certainly, I don't know all what had been done. I know that there are various points in history, school board members or different administrators have tried to call as people left. I know that we have not been able to tackle every single person, but when they do leave the district, they fill out a form. We have a general idea why, and then we are trying to follow up with them in situations where we need more information to find out why they aren't, or why they're leaving. And it's not so much, what I've seen right now, it's not so much the students that are leaving now, because that has greatly reduced. It's the ones that have left that we're trying to get back. And that's where we still have to do a better job of trying to figure out what would it take to get you to come back? What would it take to make sure, to bring your students here? And I think a lot of that is truthfully perception, opportunities, and class sizes. Oftentimes parents are leaving to other school districts for smaller class sizes or different opportunities. And so one of the things that a referendum would do is allow us to keep some of those class sizes smaller instead of having to reduce staff, and then provide more opportunities for those students. And hopefully that's what we need to be able to bring them back. But we're always examining it.
Well, we've arrived at the end of our appointed time, and certainly first and foremost, we have to thank all of you who attended. Special thanks to George Lobmeyer, who's in the back, who provided the sound for today. George, thank you for doing that and doing a good job. Started in the beginning talking about the problem with communication is the illusion that it's happened. Growing up, we lived right next to a gentleman who was quite a philosopher, and his famous quote was, "My mind is made up. Don't confuse me with facts." I very well hope that if you leave today, that you feel that you have better clarity on some of these issues. Tonight, 6 o'clock, we'll repeat this program. You're welcome to come back at that time, and I hope that you'll encourage others. Let's show our appreciation for our panelists here today. And thank you again for